Okay, my name is Abby Day. I'm doing 3rd grade science. The subject is force and motion, and my E is explore. So my teak for today is the students know that force can cause changes and that energy exists in many forms. The student is expected to demonstrate and observe how position and motion can be changed by pushing and pulling objects to show work being done, such as swings, balls, pulleys, and wagons. So this is my teak. My objective for today is that the student will be able to demonstrate and test out how work is done by pushing and pulling objects. The student will be able to see how pushing and pulling changes position and motion of those objects. So my objective will be handy at all times. Okay. So for today, we have this vocab anchor chart that we would have done in our engage portion before our explore portion. And basically I would have asked the students, based on their prior knowledge, what they already knew about words and terms such as force, motion, position, work, push, and pull. So I would come up, or as a class, we would come up with these vocab terms and they would kind of give me a definition of what they think it is, and together we would decide what it is. So there's like, okay, so they would have come up with force is a push or a pull on an object. Motion is action of moving or being moved. Push is a force moving away from something, and pull is a force moving towards something. The main term that I want them to look at today, because it's in our teak, but also because it could be a common misconception among 3rd grade students, is work. It's the transfer of energy from one object to another, causing one of those objects to move. So kids often associate the term work with a place that their mom or dad go in the morning. So I'm gonna have this handy at all times. It's because I want them to know when work is being exerted during our activity. So this will be up, and this was already pre-made because they came up with the terms on their own before the explore. So today, for my activity, you partner students up. So today, Mary Ellen and Peyton are gonna be partners. So, okay, students, do you remember yesterday during science class and we came up with all those terms such as force and motion? Okay, well today we're going to test out force, motion, and work by pushing and pulling each other on the swing set. So, y'all are partners. Who wants to be on the swing first?
I'm already.
Okay, so, Peyton, I want you to give Mary Ellen a very little push. Perfect. Now, I want you to push her a little harder. Okay. Now, I want you to give her a really, really big push. Yes! Yes. Okay, so what did you notice?
The more force I put into it, the further she went.
Yeah, so the bigger the push, the further she goes. Okay, now we're gonna pull. So do you remember what a pull is?
When you bring something towards you.
Yes, so I want you to pull Mary Ellen just a little bit. Yeah? Okay. Now I want you to pull Mary Ellen a little bit more. Perfect. Now, I want you to use all the force you have left in you and all the energy you have and pull her even more. Woo! Okay. So after I make sure they've done like a little push and a little pull and a big push and a big pull, I'll just have them kind of play around and test out their own pushes and pulls and kind of see what they can come up with, and just so they can get a feel for how hard you have to push someone or how hard you have to pull someone. But as they're doing that, they'll have their science journals out the whole time. So we'll have brought them out from the classroom to the playground. And in their science journals, I want them to be taking observations. So they'll split their chart into 4s. So they'll have a section for big push, a section for big pull, for little push, and little pull. There's a couple of things I want them to take notes on. So I want them to write down the amount of force used for a big push or a big pull, and a little push and a little pull. I want them to talk about the motion that the person on the swing set goes in, so back and forth for this case. And I want them to just make some observations that they notice about the entire explore phase while they're doing it, so that later they can come back during the explain and elaborate phase, and they can talk about in a class discussion their chart, and they can talk about their findings and compare and contrast them. Okay. At this time, I want the partner that was on the swing to be the pusher and the puller, and I want the partner that was the pusher and puller to be on the swing. Okay, so Marianne, we're going to do just like we did, but I want you to kind of get a feel for it.
Okay.
So I want you to do a little push. Okay, now I want you to do a little bit bigger. And now I want you to do a really big one. Perfect. Okay, bring Peyton to a complete stop. Okay, now I want you to do a little pull. Okay, a little harder. And even bigger, the biggest one yet. Perfect. Okay, so now remember that term work that we talked about?
Where mom and dad go to work?
No, the other term, the scientific term work. So where is work being used during this?
When I push her,
Yes.
and then when I pull her.
Yes, and why is it being used?
Because I'm using energy.
So you're transferring your energy into the swing set to move Peyton, and you're causing Peyton, which is the object, to move, right? And then, so Peyton's motion changes. So what was her motion when she's right here? No, you
No
haven't
motion.
pushed. No motion. And then where does her motion turn to when you?
Back and forth.
Back and forth
and
motion.
backward.
So when you pull her and you push her, it turns to a, what kind of motion?
Back and forth.
Good job. Okay, so I would give this group also a few minutes to explore. So Mary Ellen didn't have a chance to push and pull as much, so I'd let her do that and see how it works and see kind of how much energy or how much work she has to put into pushing and pulling Peyton. And then we would move into the the explain stage, and that's when they would pull out their science journals and come together as a class and discuss their findings. So thank you. I feel like my explore activity on force and motion was pretty efficient. At 1:13, I started off by reviewing the vocab on our anchor chart that we did during the engage portion. And so I had the anchor chart handy at all times throughout the explore activity. One thing I noticed in my particular field placement, which is 5th grade, is that even at 5th grade, it's helpful to have these anchor charts posted around the room. So my teacher has them posted all over. So at any time throughout the students' activity, if they forget a word or forget a concept, they're able to refer back to these anchor charts. So I brought our anchor chart out to the playground so that if the students forgot what a push or pull was, or if they forgot what the word work or motion or force meant, they were able to refer back to the anchor chart. One thing that I think I could have done better was that at 2:08, I introduced what misconception 3rd grade students might have. I said that the misconception could have been that students would get the term work mixed up with a place their mom or dad went. I think by now 3rd grade students may know the concept or scientific definition of work. I think I could have put a little deeper thought into a misconception. Maybe 1st grade students or kindergarten students have that misconception and haven't been introduced to the concept of work in science. But I think by 3rd grade, they have already heard the term work. And so one thing I could have done more efficiently is thought of more misconceptions that 3rd grade students might have had. At 3:04, I introduced the idea of testing force, motion, and work by pushing and pulling each other on the swing set. So I feel like my activity was efficient because it tied into the TEKS that I introduced at the beginning of the lesson. So our activity went hand in hand with the TEKS, but it was also very relatable to 3rd grade students because pushing someone and pulling someone on the swing set is something they do every day. And so now, after they've done it and after they've heard the terms push, pull, and work, they're able to see at recess when they're pushing and pulling their friends on the swing that they're applying that in everyday life. And so I connected it to everyday life, and I connected it to something that is very appealing to children. So a swing set, people love that, and I made the environment student friendly because we were outside on a playground. And so I feel like there's things I could have done better, but I feel like overall my activity was efficient and I'm happy with it. So thank you.